Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a really significant event that just happened. The Mexican Navy training ship, the Cuauhtémoc, colliding with the Brooklyn Bridge. This was Saturday evening, May 17th.
Yeah, it's been unfolding quickly. We've been tracking the CNN updates coming in all through Sunday the 18th. It's giving us a clearer picture bit by bit of what happened and, the immediate fallout.
Right. And our aim here is to really dig into those reports, try to move past just the headlines. We want to, extract the key facts, piece together what actually occurred, look at the possible causes, and think about what this all means.
Okay, so the incident itself, it happened around 8:20 p.m. local time, Saturday evening.
And the ship, the Cuauhtémoc, it's quite a vessel, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a three-masted bark, pretty big, about 300 feet long, and those masts are tall, roughly 160 feet. It's a major training ship, and, well, handling a tall ship like that, especially in a place like the East River, takes real skill.
And it wasn't just out for a quick sail. It was on this huge global goodwill tour. It had just spent 5 days here in New York at the South Street Seaport Museum, and it was heading off to Iceland next.
Exactly. A big journey. Which makes the departure, well, it turned tragic. The masts hit the underside of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, those videos are pretty dramatic. You can see the masts actually breaking, debris falling. It looks chaotic.
It really does. And the worst part, of course, is the human cost.
Absolutely devastating. 2 confirmed fatalities, a cadet and a sailor.
Wow.
Apparently they fell from the masts.
Awful. And then reports of injuries, anywhere from 19 to maybe 22 people hurt, some of them seriously. Just a terrible outcome.
So what are the initial thoughts on why this happened? I saw reports about power loss.
Yeah, that was mentioned early on by Mayor Adams. The ship lost power. City officials also used the term mechanical issues.
In the East River.
Yeah.
The current there is strong, right? Could that have
Yes.
played a part?
Definitely something they'll look at. If the ship lost power or control, that current could easily push it off course. There were reports saying it seemed to be moving in the wrong direction.
Okay, and then there was something about steering failure.
Right. The captain reportedly said they lost steering because of a rudder malfunction, but crucially, after the power loss.
Ah, so it sounds like maybe a sequence of events, like one failure leading to another.
It could be. A cascade failure, maybe? Did the power loss cause the steering problem, or were they separate issues hitting at the worst possible time? That's going to be a key question for the investigators.
And there was an eyewitness account.
Yeah, someone watching described seeing the ship just getting closer and closer to the bridge, and then seeing crew members trying to hang on after the impact. Must have been terrifying to witness, let alone experience.
It's just unimaginable. So, okay, the collision happens. What's the immediate response on the ground?
It sounds like a major emergency response kicked in fast. The FDNY issued an all-hands call. Over 100 fire and EMS personnel rushed to the scene. Given the location, the ship, the bridge,
Yeah, they went big.
and the bridge itself, the Brooklyn Bridge is obviously critical infrastructure.
They shut it down temporarily for about 40 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
City engineers checked it out pretty quickly.
Really damaged.
Thankfully, no structural damage found, so they were able to reopen it relatively soon. The ship, the Cuauhtémoc, was moved over to Pier 36.
And they set up a safety zone too, right?
Yes, the Coast Guard established a 50-yard safety zone around the ship at the pier, and that also meant halting commercial boat traffic for a while between the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges. Shows you the ripple effect on the waterway.
We also saw reactions coming in from Mexico pretty quickly.
Yeah, President Claudia Sheinbaum expressed sadness, offered condolences, called it an unfortunate accident.
And the Mexican Navy. Their secretary pledged full support to the families involved, both those who lost loved ones and the injured. And importantly, they promised a transparent investigation. They clearly understand the seriousness of this.
The crew stayed on the ship overnight.
That's what the reports say. They disembarked Sunday morning, probably gave officials time for initial damage checks, and, allowed the crew some time to process after such a traumatic event.
Which brings us to the investigation. How did they figure out exactly what went wrong?
Well, the main U.S. agency involved is the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board. They were sending out what they call a GO team.
A GO team.
Yeah, a specialist team to investigate on site. They were expected late Sunday. And a really critical piece of evidence they'll want is the ship's voyage data recorder.
Like a black box for a ship.
Exactly. It records all sorts of data, the ship's position, speed, engine commands, rudder angle, even audio from the bridge sometimes. It should give them huge insights into the sequence of events, the power situation, the steering, river conditions, everything.
That's good that such data exists. And Mexican authorities will be involved too, I
Oh,
assume.
no, absolutely. It's their naval vessel. They'll be working very closely with the NTSB you'd expect. They'll be looking at everything, the mechanicals, the power loss, the steering, the tugboat that was apparently nearby assisting.
A tugboat. Was it supposed to be guiding it?
That's unclear. Was it assisting? Was there a communication issue? That's another angle. And they mentioned city divers might inspect the rudder underwater too, see if there's obvious physical damage.
Okay, stepping back a bit, that height difference seems really stark.
It really does. The ship's masts are about 160 feet tall. The bridge clearance is listed as 127 feet. That's over a 30-foot difference.
So even if everything was working perfectly, how is it ever going to fit?
That is the massive question, isn't it? It raises serious points about the planning for this departure, the route chosen, the awareness of the clearance height. Was there a miscalculation? Was something else supposed to happen, like ballasting the ship lower? We don't know yet.
And this isn't the first time the Brooklyn Bridge has been hit by a vessel.
No, apparently not. Reports mention incidents back in 1921, 1935, and even 1986. Different circumstances probably, but it shows this bridge, this waterway, has seen issues before. Did we learn enough from those?
It's hard not to think about the Key Bridge in Baltimore, too, even though the situations are different.
You can't help but make the connection. That was a catastrophic structural failure caused by a pier strike from a huge cargo ship. This is a sailing vessel hitting the bridge deck itself. But both incidents are just stark reminders of the potential dangers when large vessels operate near major bridges. Maritime safety around infrastructure is clearly a huge ongoing challenge.
Senator Schumer also weighed in, didn't he? Raising questions about the Coast Guard.
Yes, he called for a look into whether budget issues or, as he put it, meddling within the Coast Guard might have played any role. Specifically, he mentioned staffing at vessel traffic services.
Vessel traffic services. That's like air traffic control for ships.
Pretty much, yeah. They monitor and guide ships in busy areas to prevent accidents. Schumer suggesting that maybe, just maybe, if VTS was understaffed or under-resourced, that could potentially contribute to a higher risk environment. It's a serious question to raise.
Let's talk a bit more about the ship itself, the Cuauhtémoc. It's not just any ship.
No, it really isn't. This global tour it was on, 254 days planned. It left Acapulco back in April.
And its mission.
It's kind of threefold.
Hmm.
Training naval cadets, promoting seafaring generally, and acting as a sort of ambassador for Mexico around the world. Visiting 22 ports in 15 countries. It was even scheduled for the big Sail Forth 250 events in 2026.
Wow. And a large crew on board.
Yeah, 277 people total. And interestingly, a historically high number of women for this ship, 64 women among the crew. The vessel itself has been sailing for 42 years, logged over 756,000 nautical miles. It's a ship with a rich history.
So beyond the investigation, what's the focus now?
The immediate priority seems to be caring for the people affected, getting the bodies of the two sailors home, supporting the injured, and helping the rest of the crew coordinate their return to Mexico, working with the Mexican government on all that.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, we've looked at this really tragic collision. The Mexican Navy's Cuauhtémoc striking the Brooklyn Bridge. Loss of life, injuries. It's prompted a major investigation looking into, well, everything possible. Mechanical failures, power loss, steering issues, the tricky navigation in the East River, and just the whole context of maritime safety near bridges.
Right. The NTSB and Mexican authorities have a lot to unravel. Hopefully, their investigations will give us a clear picture of exactly what led to this terrible accident.
And it definitely leaves us with a sobering thought for you, the listener. Thinking about this incident, previous ones involving the Brooklyn Bridge and the recent Key Bridge disaster, what more can realistically be done to prevent these kinds of collisions in our busy waterways?
Yeah, how much does vessel size matter versus technology? What about the human element? And how do we find that right balance between keeping maritime traffic flowing, which is vital, and making absolutely sure our critical infrastructure, like bridges, is safe? It's a complex challenge with no easy answers.